All right, guys, here we are, basically module 11, getting very close. We're talk a little bit about insurance. We're talking a little bit about buying a car. It's just what the state covers. And then we are going to talk about what happens in a collision because that's key. And I'll talk a little bit about my first collision and so forth. So let's get started. As I promised always, here are the questions. More questions, multiple choice. I'll probably cover some of this in my stuff, but again, maybe not. That's what the reading part's for. There's more questions there, some true and false questions. Wow, that's a lot of questions. This is like 29 questions. So you can go through there and look for that. And again, some of them you can Google. All right, so let's talk a little bit about insurance. Let's talk about a little bit buying a car. How many of you are going to go buy a car or a used car? Basically, we talk about blue book. Every dealer has a blue book on them, and this is sort of, some guy came up with blue book, says this is what each car is worth, and so forth. So if you're trading a car in, that's what it's worth. You can also go to the blue book and look up what your car is worth if you were trading a car in. Do your homework before you're buying a car. Dealer problems. I always tell everybody the worst two people to go see is probably a dealer, a car dealer, or AC guy. But anyway, dealers, the main thing you want to know is you do all your research online. I think buying online is pretty easy because you ain't got to deal with the dealers, but the prices are set. More and more dealerships are negotiable basically on the price or not on the price. So it depends on that. So, just, be careful what you do. I always tell everybody, if you go to the dealership, you don't need to tell them how much you have in your pocket or how much your monthly payment is. Always find out what the cost of the car is. Even though that sticker's on the car, that's not the real sticker or what it's worth. So that sticker was printed out by the car dealership and they stuck it on there, and they got some playing room, and it never feels, it always feels great when you buy a car at the price you can afford. So be aware of that. We'll talk a little bit about the car calculator. Do some car facts, which is the facts about the car, whether it's been in a wreck or so forth, especially if you're buying from an owner. You don't know how many times that car has been in a wreck, and if you buy Carfax on it, it will know. So every time you get in a wreck, the person that fixes that car loads that into the insurance, and then basically the VIN number is tagged, and then that Carfax can go look up every time that VIN number has been used through an insurance company. It can tell you how many times it's been in a wreck. Okay. Sorry if I seem like I'm rubbing something down here. My kitty cat here, basically, my cat right here keeps bothering me when I would come in and teach. So so if you see me push something away, it's usually my cat. All right. Do your homework. Desire monthly payment. Know what your desired monthly payment is, whether you need a down payment. You figure the interest rate's always about 16% or somewhere around there. If you're doing a note for 60 months, at 15% it's 10, at 16% it's 10.8, and then 17% it's 11. So, do your homework. I can pull more facts. I'm assuming your mom and dad will help you on this. I always tell everybody, I tell the story of my son. I took him there. I let him do the deal. And then basically he had to call me and tell me, okay, Dad, is this a good deal? And so forth. And I would let him know. I wanted him to go through the ringer because being a driver's ed guy, I bought many cars, probably 30, 35 cars over the 25 years or 30 years I've been doing this. So I've gone through some good stuff and I've gone through some bad stuff. So anyway, here's some more stuff. Do your homework, shop for the money, do your research. And again, do not tell the salesman how much you can spend or afford. The best example I do this is my dad lost his job, and basically I had to rely on my grandfather. My grandfather gave me his car. It was a little puke green station wagon. It was dying, so basically I called him up and said, hey, I need to, do you mind? I need to get a car so I can get around. He says, okay, meet me at this dealership. And I said, okay. In my brain, I'm thinking, ooh, I better beat my grandfather to the dealership because he will say, this is how much we're spending, blah, 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 and that's it. And then obviously the car dealership would basically, charge exactly how much he was going to spend. And that's exactly what happened. He beat me there. He walked up to the dealer and says, I ain't spending more than a dime over this. And the guy goes in there and finds the worst car and says, okay, this car is about that much, okay? But if he would have never said that, I could have had a different car or this, probably a better one. So also, when you go look at your car, go test drive it. Obviously, get it up to 70 miles an hour so you know where the rattles and the bangs are, 50, 60 miles an hour, where you know what's, jiggling or ringing or making noise. You may know nothing about the engine, but you pull that hood up and look at the engine, okay? You may know nothing about it, but look in there. You can tell whether it's a clean engine, they took care of it or not. And then do yourself a favor. Go look in the trunk. The car that he bought for me, my grandfather, I never looked in the trunk. When I got home, you could see that it was kind of flooded out in a way. And it had an old tricycle in there, this, that. And if we looked in that trunk, we would have known not to go with that car. Car lasted about 2 years, and that was about it. So, all right, insurance. There's 3 types of auto insurance. We're only going to talk about 3. There's thousands of things about insurance. We're going to talk about liability, collision, and comprehensive. So we'll talk a little bit about these. Texas personal auto coverage. There's 8 types of insurance. So we're only going to talk about liability, collision, and comprehensive. I'm not very detailed in it. I'm not an insurance agent, so don't trust me on this knowledge. You make sure you go talk to your insurance agent. I'm just going to cover basic, brief laws. Liability coverage is the minimum insurance required by law. You must have at least liability insurance. Now, liability insurance covers if you get in a wreck and it's your fault. It covers their car, their injuries in your car, but that's it. It does not cover fixing your car. So it's the minimum insurance you can get. All right, the next one is collision insurance. Its nickname is called full coverage. All right, not required by law, but basically if you get in a collision, it's your fault. It covers their car, their injuries, your car, your injuries, the whole enchilada. If you finance the car, you gotta have full coverage insurance. And then the last one is comprehensive insurance. Basically, this is stuff that gets stolen off your car. Let's say you got some nice rims, or one time we went hunting and we had a whole bunch of guns in there, and they broke the back window and stole all our guns. Our insurance covered that. There is a deductible. Deductible means how much you have to pay. So let's say my deductible is $500. All I have to pay is $500, and then the insurance is covering the rest. All right. The comprehensive would also be in full coverage. Comprehensive coverage would not be in liability insurance. All right. Now, one of the last things, this is a very short lesson, by the way, I'll let you know. I do got a very good video at the end that I'll show you. But anyway, we're going to talk about basically what happens if you get into an accident. Okay. So the very first accident I ever got into, I'm coming up underneath the freeway. So it's out in the country. So I'm coming up underneath the freeway, and a guy pulls out of a gas station. As he pulls out, he freezes there. I hit the brakes and must have slid, I don't know, 20, 30 feet, and literally drilled that car. It was always their fault. They pulled out in front of me. My first wreck ever. Probably just had my license for 2 or 3 months, and then I had no clue what to do. No cop came up or anything. So basically, I took the insurance card and I just wrote it down like a laundry list. Nowadays, the best thing you can do is take their insurance card, even if the cops switch insurance, write them down. Don't do it. Say, can I have his insurance card for 5 seconds? Take a picture of that insurance card, because the insurance agent is going to ask you for certain stuff, and if you just write it down like a laundry list, you're not going to know what it is. You take a picture of that and say, okay, sir, I don't know what you're talking about. Where is that on the insurance card? Because I got a copy of their insurance card. Also, you'll take a copy of their license. So be aware, the best thing you got in a collision, the best tool you have at the scene of accident is your camera. It takes pictures of everything. If you're okay or someone else is okay, have them get a picture of everything. How the car came out, away from it, that. But the most important thing you want to get a picture of is the sign of the street that you're at. Because then they'll say, okay, what block of Jones Road is that? I don't know. I was just in the middle of the block. Well, if you took a picture of the street sign will tell you this is the 3000 or 3300 block of Jones Road, or whatever road you want to call it. So big stuff. So this next screen I'm going to go through, it really goes deep into that. Okay, if you have a collision, what information should you get from the drivers? Obviously, the driver's name. You think, okay, I got their driver's license. You don't know if that's their driver's license. It could be someone else's driver's license. Get a picture of the driver's license, get a picture of their name. Now, what on the insurance card and what on the driver's license does it not have? It does not have the person's phone number. So you say, sir, let me text you a picture. Let me text you so you have my cell phone. Okay? What is your number? You see? Now, why I'm doing that, I've had people give me the wrong number, and I was never able to get on. Never ever saw them again. They had a fake insurance, fake ID. We switched insurance and everything. Now, I will also say, if it is not your fault, or you feel in your brain that is not your fault, call the police and have the police come. All right? You may be sitting there a while, but have the police come. All right? So obviously, you got driver's name, driver's address, which is a picture of their phone number, driver's license number, vehicle, make, body. You should take a picture of the insurance. I want you to do that as homework today, is basically go out and open the car door, driver's side, and look at that metal thing and look at all the stuff on there. Another thing to do, because the best thing is, right there in the windshield is the VIN number. Take a picture of that VIN number. That is the best thing. You get that VIN number, you are good. Okay, because you'll be able to find out everything with that VIN number. Insurance company, agent phone number, policy number, passengers, take a picture of the passengers. I had a guy, he switched on me. So when we came to the scene accident, I'm checking to see if everybody's okay, blah, blah, blah. I knew it was kind of a guy driving, because I could tell that it was a guy kind of wearing a hat. And then all of a sudden, I look over there in the driver's seat, and it's a girl with long blonde hair, and I'm going, you're not the driver. She goes, oh, yeah, I was. No, you're not. You were not the driver. We had to really get it out of them. Another one, I had a guy ran into the back of us, hit our car really good, and then they sat there in their car. They didn't get out. They didn't do anything. They were on the phone. And I didn't understand why they were on the phone. So all of a sudden, I finally get them out of the car. They show me their license. They show me their insurance. And I look at the insurance, and guess what? The insurance expired. And I said, oh, no. Your insurance expired. She goes, no, I renewed it. Well, while she was sitting in the car, she renewed it. So I said, okay, let me call the insurance. Call the insurance and insurance says, oh, yeah, it's good. But what I didn't ask the insurance is, this expired. When did they renew it? And they go, today. Okay, what time did they renew it today? Okay, because the key thing would be, because she didn't have insurance, if she said, okay, she renewed it at 4:36 p.m., then guess what time my wreck happened? My wreck happened at 4:45 p.m. But I didn't do that. I told the insurance agent, because they didn't want to lie, I told the insurance the wreck happened at 4 o'clock, which it did. She says, well, she didn't have insurance at that time. I didn't even think about that. Those are little things you don't even think about, okay? Take pictures of damage of both vehicles, the time, the date it happened, because you know, if you're a little disoriented or what's going on, there's a lot of crap going on. You're probably worried about you're hurt, this, that, whatever. You have no clue what time it happened. You don't even remember probably the date. You probably won't even remember the intersection if you're from out of town. So be aware of that. All right, if the police are present, which police department, police report number, okay, who received a ticket. That's very important. You want to know if they received a ticket or not. And then who was injured. So like one time, I ran in the back of a car. This is really like 18, 19. It just a very bump. And, you know, I got out of the car, said, hey, all y'all fine, blah, 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 yeah. Well, come 2 days later, they're in the hospital for like this injury, that injury. And I'm like, how could that happen? They were walking around great. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes that can happen. But, you know, I'm thinking maybe they were faking the insurance. So all those pictures, click, 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 all day with that phone. Get everything you can. When in doubt on the phone, take a picture of it. It ain't going to matter, okay? So take a picture of the inside of their car, like through the window, see if the airbags came out or not. I known a guy that had an insurance. It was supposedly our driver's ed car's fault. The airbags didn't come out, because usually when airbags come out, they total the car. From what we found out from the insurance company, I think it was the policeman that wrote down no airbags. He didn't see that. He went and beat the car up to make the airbags come out so he could have the total car, so he could get a whole new car. And so it's important to know whether those airbags came on or not. So anyway, I hope that helps with insurance. I know it was brief, but I wanted to cover it. I wanted to be brief about the car. This chapter may not talk a lot about that. I know it talks a little bit about insurance and stuff. So go in there, do your study questions and so forth, and also watch this very next video. I do want to say chapter 12, we're going to cover modular 12. I'm sorry, not chapter 12. Modular 12, we're going to cover a lot of stuff you need to do when you finish after you hold your permit for 6 months. So be aware of that. Hope to see you. Watch this next video. I think it's very, very good video. See you later.
I couldn't wait.
Couldn't wait.
I was really excited.
I got my license the day that I could.
Oh, the minute he could.
It was awesome. I'm pretty sure the first place I went when I got my license was Taco Bell.
I was really excited. I went and drove everywhere.
To a friend's house so I could show off.
Having that freedom.
Go wherever you want to go.
You don't have to depend on your parents anymore.
Going on dates or something, you don't have to have your mom driving you.
It's just one less thing they have to worry about.
I can just leave my house and I don't really have to tell her like what I'm doing. It's fun to be with your friends in your car and listen to music.
16 is when you start becoming more mature.
Yeah.
I think.
Teenagers in the United States get their licenses earlier than in most other countries, and they have easier access to cars once they're licensed. In many families, giving the car keys to a newly licensed driver means not only freedom for the teenager, but also relief for the parents from seemingly endless chauffeuring duties. But it comes with a potentially high price.
Crashes are the #1 cause of death among teens. Per mile driven, the crash rate for teen drivers is 4 times the crash rate for adults. It's higher still at night, and it's higher when there are other teens riding in the vehicle. It's the highest still right after they get their license. In fact, the crash rate for 16-year-olds is twice as high as the crash rate for 18 and 19-year-olds. During the learner permit, when teens are doing practice driving with their parents in the car, crash rates are really low. That's a very safe way for teens to drive. But once the teen begins to drive without their parent in the car, crash rates skyrocket. Teens are inexperienced drivers. They're more likely to speed.
I think it's fun.
Going 80
85.
I end up rushing a lot.
They make more driving errors.
I almost hit a person like a week ago.
They take corners too fast.
Yeah, I flipped over my car.
They may follow too closely.
And I rear-ended them.
They're not always able to handle a hazardous situation that pops up for the first time. Driving in bad weather, for example.
It was raining outside.
And we skidded and slid.
An adult driver just has more experience handling a situation like that. Teen drivers tend to minimize their risk and overestimate their driving ability.
I think I'm a good driver.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a pretty good driver.
I think I'm a pretty good driver.
I would say I'm a good driver for now.
And that can get them into trouble.
She just loved people. She made friends easy, and she had a lot of friends. Brenda was a good student. She loved to learn. She was really looking forward to going to college. And I never will forget when she had been watching the mail close for her acceptance letter to see if she got into JMU. And she went to the mailbox that day and she came on back. She come through that door and she said, yes, yes, yes. And she opened up the envelope, and she looked and she read it. I can see her now. She just, yes, 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 she said. It was a beautiful January day. The sky was so pretty and blue and the sun was bright. And it was just a lovely day. And that particular day, she didn't have to be to school till 11 o'clock. She sit there and she ate a bowl of cereal and she changed clothes 3 times before she left. When she got in the truck, she put a seatbelt on. When she sit in a vehicle, if she was going to drive or if she was riding, she always put a seatbelt on. And anyway, that morning the police scanner was on, and I just, in the back of my mind, I heard them say that there had been a bad accident on Route 130. And I get on down there, and there's a fireman in the road, directing traffic, and I can see a truck, and I could see the bumper, and I saw the sticker. And I knew it was our truck. So I pulled over to the side of the road, and I asked that fireman, I said, the little girl driving that truck, I said, is she hurt bad? He said, are you kin to her? I said, yes, I'm her mother. And by that time, 2 rescue squad workers, one got one side of me and one got on the other side. And I said, the little girl driving that truck, I said, is she hurt bad? And the woman said, yes, ma'am. I said, is she dead? She said, yes, ma'am.
Brandy was an inexperienced driver who died in a crash just 1 month after getting her license. Inexperience contributes to many crashes involving beginners. For 16-year-olds, the first few months of driving is when the risk is highest. Many parents think that driver education is a good way to address some of this risk. It's a good and convenient way to help new drivers learn skills, but parents shouldn't rely on it because poor skills aren't always to blame. Many crashes with young drivers involve their attitudes, not their skills.
New drivers of any age have a higher crash risk, but the issue for teens is that they're coupling that driving inexperience with immaturity.
I love to blast my music in the car.
They're young.
Driving a car, it's like riding a bike.
They may be prone to risk-taking.
I drive real reckless.
The combination of driving inexperience and immaturity is a lethal combination. It leads to a much higher crash risk for new teen drivers.
She got her license on her 16th birthday. She got her car on her 16th birthday. She had waited for it. We had waited for it. We were just as anxious for her to have her license as she was to have her license. She was probably the kind of child that every parent would hope to have. She took everything life had to offer and made the most of it. She had danced for almost 15 years. She had been a competitor in gymnastics, percussionist in the band, And she loved everything she did, and she could never get enough. Unfortunately, Shannon was 16. She was a teenager behind the wheel. She was going to a slumber party that night, and Shannon had a passenger in the car, and her friend had passed her, and probably a combination of, let me see what my little four-cylinder car can do. Rebecca saying, come on, Shannon, pass Heidi. And as Shannon tried to pass Heidi, Heidi moved over so Shannon couldn't get by her. Shannon lost control of the car, and she was hooked up to life support for 24 hours, but she got caught up in the spirit of the moment. A little bit of peer pressure. A lot of being a teenager and thinking you're invincible. It won't happen to me.
Shannon's crash was like many other serious ones involving teenagers. It was at night, and it involved speeding and thrill-seeking. Graduated licensing restrictions on young beginning drivers help prevent some of these crashes, and so can restrictions imposed by parents.
The concept behind graduated licensing is to ease teens into driving so that they gain experience in low-risk situations. So the first stage of graduated licensing is a learner's permit. During this period, the parent or another adult is in the car. Then the next stage is what would be called an intermediate license, and this is the stage where the teen first begins to drive without their parent in the vehicle. But graduated licensing limits that driving.
The best graduated licensing systems require 50 or more hours of supervised driving during the learner stage, licensure at 16 and a half years or older, and limitations on night driving and driving with other teenagers in the vehicle until the beginning driver is 18.
All states now have some elements of graduated licensing, and research study after study has found that graduated licensing laws are highly effective in reducing teen crashes. The stronger the graduated licensing law, the bigger the crash reductions.
These kinds of legal restrictions, reinforced by parents, let young beginners be mobile and get driving experience, but they do so under conditions of controlled risk. Protecting young people while they're learning to drive is really the essence of these restrictions. Graduated licensing programs around the country have reduced crashes of teenage drivers up to 30%. But in many states, the restrictions imposed by the laws are still weak. For example, many nighttime crashes of young drivers happen between 9 p.m. and midnight. But the driving restrictions in many states begin at midnight or 1 a.m. And some states don't restrict teen passengers, even though the risk of a crash goes up with even one passenger in the car. And with multiple teen passengers, the risk is 3 to 5 times greater than when a teenager drives alone. Driving around with groups of teenagers at any time of the day is a bad idea. And the highest risk for young drivers is after 9 o'clock at night with other teens in the car. This is when inexperience and immaturity are most likely to lead to dangerous behavior.
Gabriel always had a smile on his face, and so did everybody around him. The very best of kids. Adoro kept the rules. Everybody loved him. The driver was driving too fast. And there was one of Gabriel's favorite songs on the radio. And so it's party time, and she was in the back seat. And he was in the front seat, dancing with her. He was up dancing with her. And the driver might well have been distracted by that. Gabriel was not wearing a seatbelt. He always wore a seatbelt. He used to tell me to wear a seatbelt. It's late at night, multiple teenagers, radio going on, and not much experience in driving. And here he was in a moment of carelessness. An unguarded moment of carelessness, when he was dancing in a car instead of looking straight ahead with a seatbelt on. He was dancing with the girl in the back seat. And the driver was carried away also with the party that was going on in his car, as what happened to 16-year-olds. And the driver was not seriously hurt physically. The little girl was not seriously hurt physically. Gabriel's not here anymore.
Gabriel wasn't even driving. He was a passenger having fun in the car with other teenagers. Letting your teenager ride with a teen driver is very risky, and Gabriel wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Belt use by teenagers is lower than for adults, and for teen passengers, it's particularly low. Most teens who are killed in crashes aren't using their seatbelts. This is why parents should insist on belt use all the time for everyone in the car. Parents have a critical role during the very dangerous first year of driving. They have much more influence than is typically credited to them.
Parents are still the key decision makers about their teens driving.
With or without a strong graduated licensing law, parents can establish effective rules. First, know the law. Become familiar with your state's restrictions on young drivers, and then enforce them.
Parents are the chief enforcers of their state's licensing laws, and they can supplement the laws with other rules that limit nighttime driving and teen passengers.
There's a midnight curfew. It's 10 o'clock for us.
They have a very strong influence on how their teen learns to drive.
Take every opportunity to drive with them in bad weather, darkness.
You try to cover all the different driving situations your teen might encounter, so that the first time your child is in that situation, they've had practice and they know what to expect and how to respond. One of the most important decisions a parent can make is when they allow their teen to get a license.
It's not a given that once you turn 16, you'll be able to get your license.
Even though your teen may be pressuring you to get the license as soon as possible, the longer you can wait to let your teen begin to drive, the safer your teen will be.
It's been beaten into our heads enough, and drinking and driving is beyond stupid.
Parents should insist on no alcohol. Teenagers are less likely than adults to drive after drinking, but their crash risk is much higher when they do.
Distractions are a common factor in the crashes of newly licensed teen drivers. Cell phones and texting, for example, are a problem for teens because it takes their attention away from the driving task. And almost half of teens have reported that they've texted while driving, and even more have said that they've talked on phones while driving.
I do text and drive on phone. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
You know, when you get that buzz or that ring, it's a habit. It's just a reflex to go and check your phone.
It is really distracting, and you try so hard not to look at the text.
There are a growing number of states that have laws banning cell phones for young drivers, but young drivers often ignore those bans.
This is one reason laws aren't sufficient. Another reason is that cell phones and texting aren't the only distractions.
It's really easy for me to get distracted with other people in my car, the music.
You know, you're constantly looking down at your GPS or fumbling with the papers in your hands.
Eating. I can't eat and drive. It's so hard.
Anything that takes attention away from the driving task is going to be more problematic for young drivers.
Parents need to send a clear message to their teens that they need to focus on driving.
One of the most important decisions parents make about their teens driving is the vehicle that they'll drive. And there are several features of vehicles that make a difference. The vehicle should be midsize or larger. They should avoid really small vehicles. They should avoid sporty vehicles. And they should avoid pickups because these vehicles have a tendency to roll over and they're harder to handle.
The best vehicle choice for your teen is one with the latest safety technology, including side airbags that protect people's heads and electronic stability control. Teenagers often don't perceive they're at risk, and they think they're invincible.
You don't think that it's ever going to happen to you.
It won't happen to me. I'm young, I'm healthy, nothing bad's gonna happen to me.
Attitudes like this, combined with immaturity and peer pressure, can lead any teenager to drive irresponsibly. Their driving behavior is likely to be far different from when parents are in the car.
If I'm in the car with my mom, I'll drive the speed limit and make sure I turn on all my blinkers and everything. But if you're in a car with your friends on a Friday night, some of those things just kind of go out the window a little bit.
Graduated licensing programs are an important step toward reducing the risks for beginning drivers. But the role of parents is critical during the very dangerous first years of driving. We know what works: restrictions on driving after 9 or 10 at night, and not allowing teenage passengers. These restrictions don't keep teens from getting to after-school activities or to work, but they do cut down on some of the most dangerous kinds of recreational driving.
Parents may not recognize how important their decisions are. Our research suggests that teens will stay safer when their parents stay involved.
We were taking a turn at 70, even though it's advised to take it at 35 or whatever. And like, we just lost control and like just flipped, but we were all good.
We were in his driveway, he is in reverse and he floors it and he crashes into a tree.
She didn't have her headlights on and it was nighttime. And I was like, you know, you need to turn those on. And she just continued to drive with them off.
There was an island there, and so I went over the island.
I really wasn't paying attention, and I just made a right and almost hit like 3 little kids.
It doesn't affect me directly. I'm not going to worry about it until it does.
You just keep going, but you never really get over it. You never really, it's no way in the world you can get over losing somebody, especially a child.